walk through. If you have a 568, 469, whatever series baler that it offers, you can go in and set that preference so it knows when you log in and say, 569 owner, this is your maintenance intervals, this is where you go to make adjustments, maybe maybe you need to adjust your tensioning, things like that. We can go in and it'll tell you step by step. So again, there's the GoBale app, download it today. With that, I thank you for your time. We'll be sticking around if you have any questions. But with that, thank you again. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Thank you to John Deere and to Brian for that great talk. And now we're going to keep moving right ahead in the interest of time to our two gentlemen from Australia. Are we ready to, as soon as we get this small green creature out of our way, moved out? So if we have questions, if anyone has questions for Brian, have we got a way for them to catch up with him, Tammy?
I think they're coming.
Questions for Brian? No, for John Deere?
Does anyone have any?
They can catch up with him out. Is this our house?
Yep.
Can you hear me now? That's it. Thank you. Hello, everyone. I'm Darren Price. Thank you to John Deere for allowing me to use their prop here. It's actually got nothing to do with what I'm about to talk to you about. So I come from Australia. The properties, the company that I manage is Carwoola Pastoral Company, and we're based near the nation's capital of Canberra. And so I'm here today to talk to you about our farms, and we believe that at the moment we're the most digitally connected set of grazing properties in Australia. Last year we were approached by Meat and Livestock Australia, which is a producer body in Australia, to partner with them to look at a variety of digital solutions for grazing enterprises. And it was in the digital ag space that they're very interested in looking, as we are as a company. Just a little bit about MLA, or Meat and Livestock Australia. They're service provider to industry. They're funded by industry, government, and private or commercial entities. And they're looking at research and development and adoption within the rules sector in Australia. And they also work heavily in the marketing area for us as producers. So Carwoola Pastoral Company that I manage is a group of 4 properties. In total, it's around 16,000 acres. We're running about not quite 1,000 Angus breeding cows, along with around 10,000 what we call crossbred sheep in Australia, so meat-producing sheep. Our Angus calves will be grown out, or backgrounded as you also call it occasionally, to enter the feedlot system within Australia, and the fat lambs go through to an abattoir situation straight off farm, or to other restockers who have the ability to grow them on to greater weights. We grow a little bit of winter fodder cropping. Pasture is our main feed source, but we enhance that with fodder crops throughout the winter. We've got a very small full-time staff within our business, only 4, including myself, so I'm very much a hands-on livestock manager, apart from overseeing the governance and compliance of the broader business. We've got a reasonably varied topography for Australia, so we range from what we call large hills, which you guys would call small hills, through to river flats that can be covered by water when it floods. And we sort of work in the 700 millimetres a year rainfall area. So when MLA came to us and started to partner with us this time last year, the theme was separating the hype from the happening. And we've been seeing a lot of the digital technology advertised through the media and other places and by providers for many, many years, but nothing was really coming out into the space for us to use. So the whole object of the project was to look at or host and evaluate the performance and the value proposition on our commercial operations, and to allow a property that industry as a whole could come and view these pieces of technology in the flesh, and allow the opportunity for new and emerging technology to continue to be installed as we go forward. And this all culminated with a presentation by myself and MLA at last year's AGM week to talk to that space. So Meat and Livestock Australia went out to all tech providers with an open call. Basically, if you've got an ag tech solution that you think will work, bring it along, we'll put it in the field and we'll road test it. So 150 global solution providers you might be able to see on the screen came along, I beg your pardon, were approached. Only 20 showed up, 150 down to 20. Some of them have showed up on the day and decided this was all too hard. We're actually not ready to install, so they've gone away again. Some of them have come along and delivered exactly what they promoted their product to be able to do. Providers of a similar type of digital application were placed side by side. So if, for example, we had some weather stations, we'd put one here, another one 8 feet away. And then we can compare exactly what the 2 or 3 were doing in comparison to each other. That was a global invitation. Today we've got just over 400 individual digital devices installed across our business. The simplest ear tag is a digital device. We've got about 300 of those installed. The rest are all sorts of areas across our business. And I don't know if you can read the list on the screen, but water monitoring for troughs and tanks and dams. I'll just read them for you. Weather stations and rain gauges. We've got a diesel tank monitor. We have soil moisture probes in various positions across the properties. We've got sheep and cattle tags, obviously. Gate, door and cattle ramp sensors. We've got digital satellite mapping of pastures. And mapping of the properties themselves, smoke alarms and environmental monitors in sheds, vehicle and asset tracking. We've got some farm management software. We've had some apiary or beehive condition monitors put in, cattle heat and calving detection systems, silo level monitors. We've had some animal handling systems, and we've also tried a lot of connectivity solutions. So where we live, we don't have a great mobile or cell reception, despite being very close to the capital of our country. So we've had to look at different ways of extending connectivity from device to the platform and ultimately back to my office. So we have found out that we just can't install a $200 sensor. You guys that have done this already will have worked this out. You know, you might find a particular sensor and say that's pretty cheap. But by the time you start adding in your connectivity selection or needs, suddenly the costs will balloon. That's probably the big first real lesson we learnt from this. So there's probably just a minimum investment required. Most of the devices or solutions have a monthly or an annual fee attached as well, which sometimes is not actually that apparent in the first conversation. Many different approaches there, a bit hard to see, but across the connectivity options we used one called a LoRaWAN. So it ranged from basic small aerials on top of a shed through to quite a large tower with guide ropes. We've used satellite, 3G obviously. And a lot of the solution providers actually, well, not a lot, but some had never been on to a farm, so they weren't quite sure what they were about to encounter, but they worked pretty well on the run to try and give us some installations that actually were robust and fit for purpose. We also sort of asked them to make sure that there were measures put in place to make sure that livestock couldn't damage the installations, which was one of those things that some of them hadn't considered as well. We've asked all of the providers to work together. In our mind, sharing the data is a bit of a must. Each of them has a different reporting platform. We've been looking for the overarching universal platform, which we think we've found with one provider at this stage in a small way. I was never keen on having 20 apps on my phone, but I think it's important to have a dashboard offering in the background so you can deep dive into your analytics in the office if you need to. There's a couple of examples of the way that the data's displayed on certain platforms, but there's a lot in the back end of all that. Some of the digital value propositions are quite long-winded in terms of how long it takes to work out what their value is. The longer you collect data, the more meaningful it becomes, provided it's reported back to you in a meaningful way. And so we're starting to really see it now after 12 months, some real value in coming out of various installs. On the left there's a map of one of the properties with water sensor information, which I'm using, daily. I was using it this morning. I mean, I'm sitting here in Calgary. I'm looking at what's going on in Australia. It's really quite fantastic. It's a lot of peace of mind. The other screens are weather, and we're also using some GPS tracking cattle tags at the moment, which are giving us indications of where livestock are grazing, not only where they are, but how they're grazing over what period of time. So there's a lot of potential in that sort of application. So I've got many visions for the future. When I started this journey with Meat and Livestock Australia, I had a bit of a wish list, and we haven't quite fulfilled the wish list, but the wish list was made up of things that I've been seeing, like you all, for the last 20 odd years. So we've answered some of the wishes, but we've still got some visions going forward. I'm looking for some walkover weighing systems that work in the paddock, so I don't have to take them down to the yards all the time. We're looking for really smart sheep and cattle tags. Virtual fencing is about to be rolled out at our property in the next 2 months in a small project trial. So I'm really excited about trying out the virtual fencing. I think we've got many applications everywhere across the world for that sort of a system. We've got some livestock treatment applications. You probably may have seen it today. There was a digitally connected dosing gun there that changes the dose in relation to the weight to the animal. Australia does a lot of fecal egg counting for worms and worm control in sheep. There's a new device out that we're currently using with great effect. Some advanced irrigation options. We have two centre pivot irrigators on one property. But some remote telemetry and things like that are still to present themselves to us. We want some high-level reporting and analytic platform, electric vehicles, and one really exciting space for me, which I haven't seen much of since I've been here as yet, is augmented reality. And I've got a little video of that in a minute. That's something that we've tried, and I think that can be a real game changer in terms of reporting on the run. And then we just want to link it all together. I can see in the future, and we've got to be careful not to hype this thing up like everybody else has over the years, but I think we can really link lots of these devices together to give us some meaningful reporting and analytics, and then we'll get some efficiencies and greater production as we go forward. What I've done with the company called Pear Tree on the screen is that they're putting together some reporting pages or platform pages for me that I'm putting up in my workshop buildings for staff. so that they can just scroll around and see the various bits of data in front of them. This is 3 shots of weather on 3 different properties, so we can make some decisions around wind, rain and so forth for spraying applications, for argument's sake. We've also got a screen at, excuse me, I'll just get the clicker right. This is some water sensor information hooked up to tanks and troughs. So again, we can see how much is in there at a glance. And that's just scrolling around constantly in front of my staff whenever they're in a building. Or that's certainly the plan to roll that out in that fashion. We've just started doing that. The thing to remember here is that everything falls over at some stage. Everything stops. So it's really important that you push your providers to make sure that they're available for after-sales service. There's one sensor on this screen, bottom right-hand corner, says NA. It's not working in this snapshot. So there's a classic example of something that stopped, but we get that going very quickly with the support in the background. So this is a shot or a small video of an augmented reality application that we've tried. Basically, I look at a trough there in the distance on the right and swing round to some water sensors on a tank, and it's giving me the reading of the height in the tank, or the capacity of the tank, where the water is at least, as we go around. Really quite good if you're in the field and you don't want to stop and open up an app, you just hold up your phone and there it is in front of you. So we're working on that sort of continued augmented reality. And my hope is that we might be able to link that to something like cattle tags, and individual animal identification and information can come up straight in front of you on your device. The next images are of some drone work we've been doing. The one in the top left-hand, left-hand corner is designed to count cattle. This is a company out of Malaysia that we're working with. And the drone has trained itself through a little bit of AI type work to go across the paddock and count the cattle. Top right hand corner is visualising for us fence line and see if there's a damage to the fence as it flies over. If we have a big storm and there's a likelihood of some trees falling, we can send the drone to have a look at the fence line and come back and report. The bottom one is actually a weed identification application that the drone has trained to do. So it will fly over and pick up weeds and indicate to us on a GPS type report where those weeds are. Or you can link that potentially, I suppose, to an autonomous vehicle or something to go and spray them. This is just the trial work. We're going to roll this out in late in the year at this stage to actually see if this works in a commercial application. But this is the work that these guys have done in the background so far. And this is an automated autonomous vehicle. MLA have been working with Defence in US to build a machine that we can apply within our business. This first part of the clip is the original sort of prototype stuff that the Defence did, and then there'll be a static image of what is coming to us. So 6-wheel drive, low profile. Basically, you can set it up to go where you need it to go. Cart gear, take spray machines. We'll have a tethered drone attached to it as well. So there'll be applications as we go forward for that. That's the machine that's coming, and the tethered drone on the rear end. So some really interesting stuff. Don't for a minute think that this is all actually working in a commercial space. Some of it is, some of it isn't. But these are the areas that we're looking forward to trying out. And ultimately, I will go back in partnership with MLA and talk to the Australian industry about where we are with it and give a no BS assessment of the whole situation for producers. So it's a really brave new world out there. Everyone that wants to try it should try it. It's a really interesting space, and I really do believe We're very, very passionate about it in our company, and MLA certainly are. And Sean Starling from MLA is here with us today as well. We're more than welcoming to you to come and talk to us and have some question time after all of this is over, or when you're ready. So please do. And thank you all very much for hosting us. Cheers.
Thank you very much. We quite appreciated it. It's good to see some of the technology that's happening in countries across the other side of the world for us. I also have the pleasure now of introducing our last Tech Talk. Not a stranger to a lot of you. This is Dr. Cody Creelman, and he's coming in to talk to us about some other types of technology. Thank you.
I don't get to be nearly as cool rolling in my John Deere tractor. It kind of steals the show. I was going to bring my vet truck in, but it's way too dirty. Could have whipped one around. I wanted the cows in the backdrop, but they're not quite settled yet. These guys are trying their hardest, though. Thank you, everyone, to stick around for the final talk. I really appreciate it. How many of you, quick show of hands, have seen any of my content or videos out on the internet? Okay, better question, how many of you have not? Who are you? Okay, I just wanted to get a quick context so I could provide a little bit of background as to who I am and what I do. So my name is Dr. Cody Creelman. I'm a beef cattle veterinarian at Veterinary Agri-Health Services in Airdrie, Alberta. We are a beef cattle only practice. We're 9 veterinarians, and we do nothing but cow, calf, and feedlot. My clients range from 30 head all the way up to 30,000 head. My practice area expands from Manitoba, Saskatchewan, northern Alberta, southern Alberta, into British Columbia, so I'm all over the place. And I'm also part of Mosaic Veterinary Partners. So Mosaic Veterinary Partners is a rural mixed animal investment group where we go into rural mixed animal practices and we invest in those communities, we invest in those practices. So I am a practice owner at the Fairview Vet Clinic, the Peace River Vet Clinic, the High Prairie Vet Clinic, Newell Vet Clinic in Brooks and Maple Creek in southern Saskatchewan, and also we're just closing on one other deal. So in 2012, I was a young baby veterinarian looking to carve my mark on my practice, right? What can I provide to my veterinary practice that would bring value? So I kind of had a little bit of an inkling towards marketing, growing my practice, and I started looking towards marketing and what some of the options and alternatives there were out there. And I landed on social media. So social media at the time, was starting to come online as something that small businesses were doing, and that was my intent. That was my initial intent, was how could I market my veterinary services in order for us to grow our practice, this hyper-local marketing. And social media is this kind of crazy buzzword, but what it really is just media in the year 2012 or media in the year 2019. It's media where people are consuming content, right? And there's only 3 types of media that truly exist. It is the written word, so like blogs or books or magazines, audio, so that's radio and podcasts and stuff like that, and video. So there isn't very many different options to choose when you're going to share your story through media. So I had started down the path with Twitter. Most of you are pretty familiar with what Twitter is, right? 140 characters at that time or less in written format to tell a story. That was okay, but as I kind of got used to sharing my story as a beef cattle veterinarian, it just didn't seem like enough. So I started diving into some of the other platforms, Instagram, sharing photos, sharing this kind of editorial picture of my daily life as a beef cattle veterinarian, which I think is absolutely beautiful. There's nothing more beautiful to me than a uterine prolapse when the sun hits it just right. There's nothing more beautiful than a Histophilis myocarditis in the postmortem pit with the snowflakes gingerly falling down onto it. I really enjoy my job, and I see so much beauty. So I really enjoyed sharing my story, sharing my life as a beef cattle veterinarian, and sharing the story of my farmers and my ranchers. But it didn't feel like I could really express myself good enough, right? There was still something missing. I wasn't able to really capture the full breadth of my story. So around that time, that was when Snapchat was coming online and when the video sharing app Vine was coming online as well. So I started sharing my story in video format. Very, very simple. I was doing this chronological digital storytelling of my life. So I would be driving out to a call and I would open up the video app and I would point it towards my face and I would say, hey, I'm heading out to preg test 200 cows today. And then I would have a few pictures or videos of the farm dog or the farmer or me palpating cows. And then I would recap that day. I would say, preg test went wonderful, awesome clients, awesome cows, great conception rate. And then I'd usually end the day with some lip syncing to Taylor Swift on my drive home. And I recognized in myself that that was the best form of media for me to tell my story, to market my veterinary services, was in the video format. That was my means of communication that was most effective for me, the ability for me to do it the most efficiently. But there was still something missing. It was short format, and it would disappear after 24 hours. Like with Snapchat, that content would disappear after 24 hours. So I would put in this effort, but then it would just kind of disappear into the ether of the internet. Around 2015, that was when the vlog was coming into popularity. This is the height of Casey Neistat's success. I'm watching these vloggers on YouTube. That's the content that I'm consuming. And I thought, you know, this could maybe be it. This daily documentation of my life as a beef cattle veterinarian in central Alberta. Now, I had no idea how to share video. I had no idea how to shoot video. I had no idea how to modulate audio. I had no idea how to color correct. I didn't know how to edit. I didn't even know how to get the video off of my phone onto my laptop to do that. But the day before my 31st birthday, I had filmed on my iPhone an entire vlog, an entire day of going out and preg testing. I sat down at my laptop after my wife and kid went to bed. At that time, I just had one kid. And I said I was not leaving this damn laptop until I edited a vlog. I had no idea. So 3 a.m. rolls around, and I finally click export, and it somehow uploads to YouTube. And I shared my story in video format on YouTube. A couple days later, I shared that same video on Facebook, and I did that over and over and over again. So we're about 350 videos into it now of me sharing my story as a human, as a cow vet, as a dad, as a husband, as a business person, all of those different things. And the results for me have been phenomenal. You know, my original goal was this marketing of my vet services. I've certainly done that, but it's done so much more as well. I would have never expected that it would have created this this positive outlook on what beef cattle raising is. That people see this story. I get messages all the time of people who watch my story, watch your story, and say, I had no idea how much care and time and commitment and finances that these cattle people put into their investment, into their operations. From an encouragement standpoint, from a motivation, from an inspiration standpoint, I get messages dozens a week from veterinary students thanking me for putting my videos out there, because to them, that's a light at the end of the tunnel for what they're feeling right now. They're seeing an industry with high suicide rates. They're seeing an industry with unhappy veterinarians, practices closing down, and then they get to see a vet in the midst of all of their studying in this drudgery of veterinary school, that actually is smiling at the end of the day, that's enjoying his job, whose family apparently still loves him, that there is some sort of work-life balance that exists. Last time I checked, I was at 40 million minutes of videos content consumed on my channels. 40 million minutes of this farm kid from Beaver Lodge, Alberta, who didn't know his iPhone from a cow turd was able to create that sort of thing, right? Now, what does that mean for producers? What does that mean for farmers? What does that mean for the crowd that's here today? And all of you, to some extent, are small business owners as well, right? You have a vested interest in telling your story because you have a product to sell. Some of you might be direct marketing, but some of you might just be selling a commodity, right? So the only benefit to you is to advocate for the agriculture industry. And if I was just left to, my only task was advocating for the beef cattle industry, I would have never done and put in all of the work. Every video that I've ever created, all 350, have taken me 4 hours each to put together. It's an amazing amount of time. But there is a vested interest in all of us to perhaps tell our story in the way that is most effective, but there's a few things that stop us. So the first one is we say time. Cody, I don't have time for that. I don't have 4 hours a day. I don't have 4 hours a day either, but I've made the time. But the real reason is fear. We're scared to put ourselves out there. We're scared what our mom thinks. We're scared what our dad's gonna think. We're scared what if grandpa saw that? What if our friends saw that? I'm gonna look like an idiot on camera. I got nose hair sticking out. My eyes are crossed. All of those things. It's really, really, really scary. But if you have a goal in mind, then that's going to be able to, you're going to be able to accomplish that small goal. My small goal when it comes to putting out video content is 100 per year. No matter what, I'm going to get 100 videos per year put out. So the goal is so important. I remember when I was 14 years old, I'd come across a T.S. Eliot quote. And I don't know which context or why a 14-year-old was looking at T.S. Eliot quotes. I was just this ranch kid living in a small, ancient, tiny farmhouse with my single mom and my sister. But I come across this quote, and I read it a million times, over and over again. I read it so many times, I incorporated those words into my DNA. What T.S. Eliot had said was, only those who risk going too far can possibly find out how far one can go. Only those who risk going too far can possibly find out how far one can go. I remember I got a Sharpie pen and a piece of paper, and I wrote that quote out, and I walked across my bedroom at 14 years old, and I taped it up on the wall. And I knew in my every fiber of my being that that was my first goal in life. That no matter what I would do, I would always risk going too far, too outside of the box. I knew that that just made so much sense to me. Only those who risk going too far can possibly find out how far one can go. That was my first goal in life. When I was around the same age, I had also had this vision of riding bucking horses in the rodeo, okay? I'd wanted to ride saddle broncs so bad. I had no mentor, no idea, but I knew I just had to do it. I spent every single weekend in high school bloodied and battered. I was hung up, I was stepped on, I was drugged, I was concussed, I was broken. I remember walking down every Monday morning down my high school hallway, so sore, crippled, black bruises all over my body. But that pain had taught me a lesson, that the hardest part in that wasn't the time leading up to before that ride, and it wasn't the time after the chaos was initiated, it was when I nodded my head. That was the absolute hardest part in life, was to sling myself from stillness into action. Risk going too far and do the scary thing. And I've been scared so many times in my life, so many times as a husband, as a father, in my academics, in my career, so many times. But the hardest part is always initiating the chaos. We have all these ideas, but there's always something that's too scary for us to overcome that. I'd wanted to be a veterinarian so badly. That was the slap you in the face loud dream that I had to be a veterinarian so badly. But that's not having that big dream. We all want to live that dream, right? We all want to live those goals, but that's not the most important part. Or live that dream. That's not the most important part. The most important part is having a goal in mind, right? Having that goal is so incredibly important for us in order for us to succeed in the next step. Because even without having that dream that I had it to be a veterinarian, even without having that dream, we can still set a goal and achieve it. We can get that new job. We can get into that vet school. We can run the marathon. We can ask that person out. We can get that new car. We can all achieve goals without necessarily having a dream. But achieving those goals are not without consequences either. Achieving goals, a goal in general is a double-edged beast. It is something different altogether because there's always a consequence. Getting into vet school, that was a great goal that I had. But there was so much work that went into that, and I still remember with tears streaming down my face holding my acceptance letter, how good that felt, but after that was the next second, and the next second after that. After achieving that goal is when I felt so lost. So achieving goals are great, setting goals are great, but I felt so incredibly lost as well. And that pattern happened over and over again in my life. Setting goals, achieving goals, feeling lost. Be the best vet student I could be. Sacrifice, struggle, fail, achieve. Be the best cow vet I could be. Sacrifice, struggle, fail, achieve. Be a great businessman. Sacrifice, struggle. My wife had to sacrifice. My kids had to sacrifice. Inherited sacrifice. Multi-generational sacrifice. It is difficult to set those goals to achieve them. I guess in that was always my greatest failure, was setting possible goals for myself. And this is what ties back to the videos, ties back to the vlog. I set an impossible goal for myself. I wanted to be a veterinarian so badly, right? But even with that, as I was living my dream as a veterinarian, there was still this small nagging whisper in the dead of night telling me that I needed to do more, that I needed to do something that was pushing the boundaries, that I needed to go too far and to do the scary thing. So even with that loud slap you in the face dream that I had, there was still a whisper. There was still a whisper to go too far. So now I set impossible goals for myself. Because for me, it is the journey and not necessarily the destination. That, to me, is what true happiness is. I know I'll never be satisfied. So I love telling my story because that is an impossible goal. It is an impossible goal for me to keep striving to be better, to tell a better story, to tell more of a story, to be more authentic. That's what drives me. That's what lets me stay up till 2 a.m. and work on those videos and publish and wake up at 6 and head out to my day as a beef cattle veterinarian. I love chasing that impossible goal. So if you are a dreamer like me, I give you permission to dream. And I give you permission to fail, and I give you permission to go too far. So thank you very much, everybody.